This is a special edition of WeatherScope with an update on the latest storm affecting the Northeast.
Well, it's another storm update, and it's another round of wintry weather for the East Coast. Good evening, I'm Dave Schwartz. While it was 81 degrees in Billings, Montana today, it was snowing in the east, in Pennsylvania, Maryland, New York, and now into southern New England. Take a look at it from the satellite vantage point. You'll see spinning around in a counterclockwise fashion. We've got this big trough of low pressure. It just does not want to give up here. And we've got the circulation around this big area of low pressure that's centered over the Northeast right now. It's a cold pool of air, and the moisture is being thrown up into it. And I'll tell you, we've got somebody to pay a little battle pay to. That's Jeff Morrow. Jeff, you're right in the middle of it. It appears as if conditions are worsening there in Worcester, Mass.
Indeed they are, Dave. And, well, here we go one more time. Another snowstorm. You would think by this time in April that we could have gotten rid of this already. I mean, we're even past the Easter season. We are within a week of the Boston Marathon here. Lots of folks talking about that and hoping that we don't get a repeat of this next week. They definitely don't want that. But for tonight, a big nor'easter coming in, and it has really started to go downhill here around the Worcester area. The snow has started about 2.5 hours or so ago, very lightly. It has picked up steadily, and the temperature has dropped. It's now down to about freezing. Wind out of the north-northeast at probably about 10, gusting to 20 miles an hour. So we're dealing with a bit of a wind chill factor here, too, and it is starting to stick on the cars and on the grass again. Won't be too long before the roads start to get a little bit slushy, and we expect it to pick up even more as the night goes on.
As I understand it, you're homing in on a record there in Worcester.
That's right. We are at the Worcester Airport. That's the terminal behind me here, by the way. And the airport is still open right now. Don't know that any flights are coming in and out yet, but they could. The runways are still clear. The record being a little over 120 inches here at Worcester. With the last storm 2 days ago, we got up to 110 inches. So they need about 11 more to break the record here. And with this latest storm, Dave, and the forecast that we have, they just might do it.
That's right. It's a slow mover, Jeff. So with that airport in behind you, you might just get some ideas about catching a quick flight to Miami. But we need to stay with you for the rest of the night. Thanks so much for the report.
All right.
Well, not only is it snowing in Worcester, Mass., but we've seen snow falling in New York City and several other cities earlier today. Light snow started in the city around noon today, and as the day progressed, the snow got heavier. But residents of the Big Apple still went about their everyday tasks. The snow continues tonight. It'll be heavy at times with 2 to 4 inches accumulation expected, and it'll continue into tomorrow. A record is ready to be broken in Cleveland, but there's not much celebration for that event. Today's snowfall moved the city to within half an inch of the all-time snowfall record, which is 100.5 inches. That was set back in the winter of 81 and 82. There's a chance for more snow showers tonight, but residents can expect some clouds and a little sunshine Wednesday with a warming trend, and we'll see the temperatures warming back up. Well, here's our main area of low pressure, the surface low, if you will, that's centered off the New Jersey coast at the present time, right in there. That is still strengthening. It is deepening, and it's throwing some moisture back into the cold air here, and we're getting reports of snow up and down the East Coast now into Boston, Hartford, New York City. Everybody getting in on some snow now. Cleveland, though, is beginning to dry out. Temperatures back there in the mid-30s. Notice Boston at 38 degrees and New York City 35, Philadelphia at 34. Even though those temperatures were warm enough to keep the snow melting during the day, the snow that's coming down now after the sun has set will begin to accumulate, not only on the grassy surfaces, but out here on some of the roads. Further southward into the Baltimore metro area, Harvard County, northern Baltimore County, and into the D.C. area and Fauquier County, just north and west of town, 1 to 3 inches of snow have already accumulated here. It's snowing in Philadelphia, snowing so hard in Atlantic City at the present time, the airport is reporting visibility of just 1/4 of a mile. Temperature 32 degrees, so undoubtedly the Garden State Parkway is a very rough ride. Snowing into New York City tonight, out on Long Island, Hartford with the snow, And now in Boston, a mixed bag of rain and snow, the temperature 38, but conditions are going to be on their way down. Here's the forecast through 7 p.m. on Wednesday. Zooming in a little closer, the area shaded in white right here, which is where Jeff was, from Worcester, Mass. Up into Concordia, New Hampshire, down into the Litchfield Hills of Connecticut, a foot or more. While in this gray area, 6 to 12 inches of snow. That would be north and west of New York City, north and west of Boston, too. Boston, you're in the 1 to 3 inch zone, maybe even a little bit more than that. There's our storm. Low pressure centered off the Jersey coast, moving slowly toward the north-northeast, and we'll be on the cold side of this storm throughout the entire period. We will keep you in touch with all the wintry weather in the northeast. It'll slowly wind down on Thursday, and then there's warm air moving in for the second half of the week. Right now it's in the west. They're really heating up there. And here's Christina Abernathy with that story.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Of course, as you said, very warm temperatures in the west, and you can see lots of yellows and oranges here, and that is where we're dealing with the warmest weather. But in the forecast, we'll see some of that warm air sliding eastward. But in the meantime, dealing with some pretty chilly temperatures here in the northeast to go along with the snow. And across the country, really quiet weather, except, of course, in the northeast. We do see a little wet weather in Florida along a frontal boundary. And in the west, you're getting some rain, even some thunder showers moving through parts of Montana. We want to, first of all, focus in on our national radar. You can see that showing up, some of the thunder showers here. And, oh, that doesn't look so good. Let's go on to the next map. We're looking at wet weather around Seattle, back towards Portland and Salem. But again, around Great Falls, Montana, it's thunder shower activity that you're concerned with right now. So a little bit of a thunder and lightning.
This is a special edition of WeatherScope with an update on the latest storm affecting the Northeast.
A severe thunderstorm hit Great Falls, Montana earlier tonight after a high of 79 degrees there, while we were in the cool 30s and 40s on the East Coast. And what's falling from the sky is snow. Good evening, I'm Dave Schwartz. It's Storm Update 96. You can see our storm clearly, the moisture wrapping around it in the northeast and mid-Atlantic states right now. We take you to the satellite vantage point and look at the last 24 hours, and as you can see, this storm that's just off the Jersey and Delmarva coast is not moving anywhere quickly, and that's unfortunately one of the downsides to this storm. Sitting right in here, moisture is being thrown up into southern New England and New York and into New Jersey and down toward Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, and some heavy snow is expected. We've already seen some of that earlier today. New York City, for one, it was snowing virtually all day. The rain changed to snow, actually, in New York City. Residents of the Big Apple still went about their everyday tasks, however. The snow continues tonight. It'll be heavy at times, and it will begin to accumulate, particularly on some bridges and overpasses here in town, with more out in the suburbs. The record is ready to be broken in Cleveland, but there's not much celebration for this event either. Today's snowfall moved the city to within 1/2 an inch of the all-time snowfall record set 14 years ago. There's a chance for more snow showers tonight, but residents can expect some sun Wednesday with highs well into the 40s. Meanwhile, the snow all the way down into the southern Appalachians. Here we are on Grandfather Mountain in North Carolina. They picked up 4 inches of snow. High winds also added to the discomfort factor for anyone who is out and about today. But if you're used to the elements, you learn to take it in stride. Wednesday brings partly cloudy skies, and the outlook is great. This dog will be running around chasing things he can see, not down in the snow. It'll be nice and warm in North Carolina by the weekend. Look at it, satellite and radar composite. This area that's shaded in dark green that's moving up into southern New England, that's the moderate to heavy snow right now. Hasn't made it up into Portland yet, but it will. New York City seeing the snow. We zoom in a little closer. Boston, rain and snow mix at the present time, but this is going to change over to all snow in Boston later on tonight. The snow will come down heavily, and as the precipitation intensifies, some of the cold air aloft up at cloud level will be transported down to the surface. So we're in the upper 30s in Boston right now, but that temperature will fall as the precipitation intensifies. It's snowing in Providence, snowing in Hartford, not snowing yet in Springfield, but about to. Here in Groton, we've got heavy snow. Poughkeepsie, snow. Albany, dry. You will be impacted minimally by this. This will be coast and New England. New York City, all areas reporting snow, and the wind is taking the wind chill now down into the teens. And there's plenty more moisture to move in from the south, so we're not out of the woods yet. And the Garden State Parkway is just covered with heavy, wet snow at the present time. It's been coming down hard in Atlantic City, where the temperature dropped to 32 degrees. Here in Philadelphia, we've got some light snow. 1 or 2 inches are possible by morning, particularly grassy surfaces. We've already seen some of that here in the Baltimore suburbs of Harford County and into northern Baltimore County, down through Fauquier and Loudoun counties here, north and west of Washington, D.C. 1 to 3 inches of slushy accumulations, not on the roads. In Washington, just wet at the present time. Baltimore, same story. These are snow flurries moving in from the northwest, but they're also light, so we're not looking for any poor driving. 44 degrees, the high temperature in Washington, D.C. 40 in New York City and 41 in Boston, and those temperatures are coming down tonight. But look how much warmer it gets as we head out to St. Louis or Garden City. How about 76 degrees in Denver, Colorado, and it was even warmer than that the further west you go. We've been stuck in this ridge in the west, trough in the east pattern now for days. Warm here, all the storms go over the top. Low pressure areas weaken as they go over the top of a ridge, but then they intensify. They tap into some of the moist air that's sitting out here over the Gulf Stream and over the Gulf of Mexico, and that's why we get a lot more precipitation annually here than we do anywhere in the west. We've got 2 bodies of water, the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico, and when there's enough cold air in place and enough lift in the atmosphere, the snow comes down hard, and it is coming down hard right now in Worcester, Massachusetts. Jeff Morrow is there. We will check back with him at the top of the hour. But first, these folks in the Northeast want to know when winter is going to end. Well, I think Christina Abernathy has some good news for you, my friend.
That's right, I sure do. We have this very warm air in the west. Well, eventually that is going to be shifting on eastward. But in the meantime, you're still dealing with, of course, those very chilly temperatures in the east. But look at what we're looking at here in the west. 60s, 70s, 80s, even a few 90s here to the south. Very warm indeed, and again, warmth will eventually be spreading on eastward. Across the country, looking at pretty quiet weather for the most part. The exception, of course, in the northeast, as Dave just showed you. We're also looking at a little wet weather back in Florida with that frontal boundary that just won't go away, and in the northwestern part of the country, a little rain and even a little thunderstorm activity in parts of Montana. Let's focus in on our radar across the country, and you can see that activity here through Montana. Well, that doesn't look very good. Let's take a look at a little bit of a close-up radar out of this area, and what we're looking at is wet weather around Seattle, Portland, Salem. You can see that Pacific moisture coming in, and disturbances riding over the top of that ridge, and we are looking at thunderstorms moving through parts of Montana. Some thunderstorms reported earlier around Great Falls, so you've had some pretty windy conditions here too, and keep in mind a little thunder and lightning as well as the rain certainly will be around in this region. Back to the south we go in Florida, where we are looking at still a little wet weather around the Keys and around Homestead. You can see that all associated with that front that is finally going to be moving on out of the area as we head into the forecast. Let's see what the maps show us, and our overall pattern shows the
For your neighborhood, only on the Weather Channel.
freeze. When will it be? Well, if you can see on our map, around April 20th, this is where we generally expect the last freeze. And then on into the 30th, we see that line shifting northward. So good news, it's time to get out there and start planning. Into the southeast for early April, especially along the Gulf Coast states. Time for tomatoes and peppers, and time to get those annuals out. Still in this region, a bit too cold to be thinking about planting, but head on later in the month and looking really good here. Again, the tomatoes and peppers here, back towards the Ohio Valley, maybe some broccoli and cabbage to be planted. We'll have some garden tips next.
Neighborhood, only on the Weather Channel.
In southern New England. Temperature 35 degrees in Boston right now, and we're expecting some snow to move into Boston. You see that area shaded in white? 12 inches or more of snow expected, huh? Heavy, wet snow, but now that the sun is down, we're not getting the benefit of incoming solar radiation, even through the clouds. That can have an impact this time of year, particularly on the blacktop. That absorbs a lot of radiation relative to snow cover, which reflects it back into your eyes or back out into space. Look at the moisture sweeping up here. Low pressure sitting right in there. Right in there. Moisture heading up into northern. Now this time we don't have a real super cold air mass in place for this moisture to move into, but we've got so much lift in the atmosphere, getting these heavy snow showers going, that there's a compensatory bringing down of a cold layer that sits up in the clouds. As the precipitation gets heavy, some of that cold air works its way down to the surface, just like we saw in Atlantic City just a couple of hours ago. The precipitation got hard, and the temperature dropped to 32. And we've got some snow out here in Cape May County. At Egg Harbor Township, all across New Jersey, as a matter of fact, just about everywhere except for northwest Jersey, where we got some elevation. There just isn't much in the way of moisture, but it's snowing at High Point State Park, no doubt. Here in New York City, it's snowing. Out on the island, it's snowing. Philadelphia, snowing. Flurries back here in Baltimore and Washington. Up in Boston, the precipitation still not heavy enough, so right now we've got just some light rain and light snow mix, but we'll expect some accumulations by morning. These areas of low pressure have just been riding the jet stream, this big ridge of high pressure in the west and a trough of low pressure here in the east. It's been mild so far this spring here in the west. Witness a record high today in Cheyenne, Wyoming, Lander, Wyoming, Billings, Montana. Everybody in the 80s out there, while we were stuck in the 30s and 40s to the north of our jet stream here. But the good news is this is the last storm go-around. This snowstorm that's moving through the northeast right now, that's the last one. A little storm that's moving in to the west at the present time is nudging our nice ridge of high pressure eastward. Isn't that nice? Look at the big ridge. All the way up into Canada, trough down into the eastern half of the country. 70 degrees, Calgary, Alberta today. 70. And here in Miami, it was 72 under the clouds. Huh? 70 up there, 70s and 80s. But there is a little storm moving in through here. We've had some thunderstorms in Montana, springtime-like thunderstorms. And that little storm is pushing our ridge, finally.
To-date weather information for your neighborhood. Only on the Weather Channel.